So what exactly influences what we eat, why we eat it, and when we eat it? Because what we consume really does play a significant role in your quality of life as well as your health and well-being. We know that diet directly affects your health, both in positive and in negative ways. And examples include eating things that are going to cause you to have chronic diseases or trigger chronic diseases and shorten your lifespan versus healthier diets, which will probably add to your longevity. So why do we pick the foods we pick? Personal preference. Sometimes I like to have a potato chip. Yes, I do eat potato chips. Sometimes they want salt. Sometimes they want something sweet. Sometimes they want something spicy. Everybody goes through that. You may eat something out of habit. So if you're eating the same cereal every morning, you're eating it out of habit. There are ethnic heritages or traditions which have a strong influence on your food choice. And I think about my parents, both of whom were from Scandinavia, and every holiday we had boiled potatoes and smoked salmon because that is an ethnic tradition for Northern Europeans or Scandinavians. Social interactions also will influence what you eat. And I think of the Super Bowl. You're eating with friends. It's a social event. You're sharing foods with your friends. And what do you eat? You get wings, you get pizza, you have beer. Availability, convenience, and how much food costs will also have a major impact on what we eat. Because oftentimes people are going to eat foods that are easy to get, fast to either get or prepare, and specifically are within their financial boundaries. This is where we first get introduced to the concept of food deserts. Many of you may know about these already, and if you don't, food deserts affect about 17% of the US population, depending on what statistics you use. 17% is a fairly large portion of our population. This tells you about food deserts in the DC area. It describes what food deserts are. Again, watch these because there will be videos or questions off these videos on your assessments. Hello. And this talks about the fact that there has been an enormous rise in Americans' food insecurity, particularly during the pandemic. And a lot of people have not been able to get over problems caused by the pandemic financially. So why else do we choose food? Body weight and image. So people, particularly women, have a somewhat skewed perception of what they should look like based on what TV stars and movie stars see or look like and what they see in magazines. And I can distinctly recall multiple times where I have been at the checkout at the grocery store and I look at the magazines and they will have an enormous meal or a giant cake as a picture on those so-called women's magazines. And one of the articles will be, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. So talk about a mixed message. Some people may choose certain foods depending on the fact that they believe that will help them build muscle, for example. A lot of guys will be consuming protein powders if they're weightlifters, women too, not just guys. Often those choices are not necessarily based on purely sound nutritional knowledge or background or proven research. So if you're going off on a binge, like I'm going to go on a watermelon eating diet or a celery eating diet, make sure you know what you're doing. I like to say, don't try these at home. There may be positive or negative associations with food. We all think about birthday parties and cake, happy associations, and there may be associations with food where you had a bad experience. And my sister will no longer eat spinach because we grew up in the days where you finished everything on your plate. And my sister did not like spinach. And she would sit there until that spinach was stone cold, until she could finally gag it down. And to this day, she can't stand spinach. There are times we eat in response to stress or emotion, or if you're bored or you're depressed, and that's sort of, you're talking about eating those comfort foods. You've heard that phrase. This is why we may choose various foods at certain times. Nutrition is also a reason that people will select personal or make personal choices on food, because there are people who choose to eat food based on the fact that they know or believe that food will help benefit their health. Oftentimes, especially in this area, because we tend to live in an area where there are a lot of farm shares and community supported agriculture, TC3 has a CSA. People will want to eat organic foods because they're closer to the source and don't have many pesticides. There are also people who will eat food products that have been researched and produced by food companies because they allegedly improve your health. Oftentimes there are values that will reflect religious beliefs or political views or environmental concerns. And an example of that is if you are Jewish and you eat kosher, or Muslim and you eat halal. There are people who take a stance for political views or environmental concerns. Classically, you find people who will boycott food products a certain company produces because of animal rights issues, and that circles around and comes back to factory farming, which we will discuss. And there are other examples. For example, I mentioned the CSAs and farm shares, which are great for the local community, great to support local farmers, and you get wonderful organic food. Nestle's has been boycotted since the 1977, I think, or was it 1974, on and off by various groups because they touted that their baby formula was better for infants in emerging nations, and they basically brainwashed mothers to use baby formula and move away from breastfeeding. And it's actually breastfeeding that is the best way to feed newborns. Stay tuned for more fun facts.